All right, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. We have some new leadership in our team. Leo Lopez used to be our associate commissioner, and he has moved over to Mo Casey. I wanted to kind of piggyback on what David said. We're all available. I have our contact information here. If you go to our website, all of our staff, we have our email addresses and our phone numbers. Me in particular, I have worked at a district level. I've been the budget director at Austin ISD. I've been a senior budget analyst, and I've also been the director of finance over at Round Rock ISD. So I've previously worked in a district, and I understand how complicated some of this information can be. So like David said, if you have problems, questions, please reach out. There's no way for us to, generally speaking, we can't help you if we don't know that there's a problem. Big shout out to Josh Haney over at Mo Casey. It looks like he was sharing the FSP data elements, sources, and timelines in his presentation. And on the left side of the slide, I have a link on where you can find this on the website. We do runs all of the time. If you go to the summary of finance, especially for prior years, a lot of times you'll see that there are a couple hundred runs that happen in a year. We're constantly updating based on PEEM submissions, based on information we get from the comptroller's office, and we're always kind of headed towards, we start off with the preliminary, then we move into the near final, and then finally the final. So again, we've done a ton of recent updates with property information from the comptroller's office. Also, the state comp ed just came in through the October snapshot. That's been incorporated into the SOF as well. We're in the process of closing out 21-22. In April of 2023, you'll see us load the actual tax collections from J1 of your annual financial reports. A lot of things happen with the near final and final summary of finance reports. Amy Copeland heads the school funding division, and her team takes all of this information and loads it up. And so you'll see continual changes in your summary of finance. Let's see, in September of 2023, we added the summer attendance data from PEEMS. We've added the ADSI, or we will do the ADSI ADA in October of 2023. I'm getting ahead of myself. I apologize. February 2023, the tax year 2022 preliminary certified property values, the actual state comp ed, and all of the PEEMS enrollment was loaded in. And so her team has been quite busy. Let's see, you can go to these specific lines on your summary of finance to find this information. Here's kind of a snapshot. I will say that you can go to our public webpage and see all of those run IDs. However, if you want to know why a specific run ID was run or what's been incorporated into it, if you go to your Teal login and look at the summary of finance reports there's actually a narrative description that explains what changes happened in that particular SOF run. So a lot of times that can be super helpful in understanding what we're doing. The tax year 2022 preliminary certified property values, you can see that we have some specific run IDs that you can see for that information. Statewide property growth. This is the same presentation that I did at TASVO last month. Some of these TBDs may have been updated since we last presented them. Being that I am in forecasting and fiscal analysis, my team and myself, wow, we just get a ton of fiscal notes from the legislature. And so even though we have full-time jobs, when it's not session, sometimes it's difficult for us to update some of this information on a live basis. And it seems that some of this information can change on a day-to-day basis. We're starting to, or the current school year, which is 2022, 2023, we have the preliminary SOF reports up, constantly making changes. You should absolutely be using your local state aid templates to estimate and make sure that you're on track. Generally speaking, we recommend that people do that around every 6 weeks, just to make sure that we're all kind of aligned on what's going on with your funding. State Comp Ed, I have some additional slides on this towards the end of the presentation, but it is on line 23. And there's also a tier 1 detail report that you can click to see more information and the line items that go into that allotment. Let's see. I'm gonna kind of skip over some of these. All right, so this is a really important slide, and I want to take some time to talk about this. As far as calculating tax rates, this is a very interesting year because of the legislature. Historically, we have posted TAA correspondence to help you figure out what your minimum compressed tax rate, MCR, will be. This year we're not doing that. There is a ton of legislation going on in both the House and the Senate on tax relief, whether it be an Asahi, which is not an Asahi, it is Asahi, excuse me. They're looking at changing the homestead exemption. They're also looking at doing further compression on tax rates. With that said, I know working on a district budget that can be somewhat frustrating. Obviously, a lot of districts are July 1st districts, other districts are September 1 districts. But if you're a July district, then you have to have your budget adopted by June 30th. And I just really want to focus on that you kind of have to, have an idea of what you think that tax rate's going to be. But at the end of the day, you won't actually adopt that tax rate until September. And so no matter what they do with the tax rate, whether they further compress it, your state entitlement will not change. If your local taxes go down, then your state entitlement will go up. And I think I have a slide on that. Let's see, I believe, and I'm sure Josh and Amy Ma probably covered this. I think at this point, everybody's fully aware that the state of Texas has a huge surplus. In some ways, I think that has made this session a little more complicated. There's so much money, and so there's so many different ideas on where and how they want to spend it. And if you're interested in reading this report, it is public and it is on the Comptroller's website, and I have put a link on the right side of the presentation. There's obviously, like I said, a budget surplus. So House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 1 were the base budget. They both proposed property tax relief in Rider 81. And then Rider 82 also proposes public education funding for increased compensation and benefits for classroom teachers and additional funding for the teacher incentive allotment. I've worked on multiple bills as far as the minimum salary schedules, and I've seen a lot of different ideas. I've seen some across the board raises for everybody that's the same dollar amount. I have worked on scenarios where they are breaking out the years of experience from 0 to 4 and then 5 to 10. And I've seen scenarios where they're also breaking out whether teachers are certified or not certified, intern or probationary. So, I mean, at this point, I absolutely think that something will happen with the minimum salary schedule and teacher compensation. I think it's just too early to tell what exactly they do. And like I said, there is a lot of different ideas out there. I've seen multiple bills about increasing the basic allotment, different amounts, school safety allotment. I think Josh and Amy probably touched on some of this, a lot of different ideas again. I've seen, where it's based on ADA. I've seen where it's based on enrollment. I've seen where, there's like a minimum floor. So again, lots of different ideas, but it's definitely school safety is one of the top issues I think they're working through. School finance is pretty expensive. And these base bills, like I said, it was roughly around $60 billion. Property value growth estimates. These were released by the Comptroller of Public Accounts. You can see in the base bill language that the 3.82 and 4.56 are the new proposed projected increases in property values. Again, more property tax relief. That's been a big issue. I believe it was over in the Senate. I saw a lot of discussion, and I know that they've passed some legislation to move forward. Now that's only on the Senate side. It still has to go to the House side. There's a conference committee. It's not over until May 29th, and it's not over until the governor signs the final bills. And so, but we do see a lot of progress moving in that direction. Again, that would help, relieve property taxes for everybody across the state of Texas. However, I just want to throw out again, if they do that property tax relief and the schools would see a lower share of the local portion, and then they'd see an increased share of the state portion. So that should not impact your funding as a school district. Let's see, I've said this multiple times. Again, the glass, a lot of people use that glass as an example. If local share decreases, state share increases, and vice versa. Let's see, teacher incentive allotment. That's been under a lot of discussion. There's not, the majority of districts in the state of Texas are not using the teacher incentive allotment. I believe that both the ledge and the agency are working on a plan to try and get that going for more districts so that teachers can get increased pay. Let's see, this is important. So TRS in the base bill and on their website, they're looking at increasing the state contribution to 8.25%. I believe they are also increasing the school district's portion a little bit as well. Why do you care about the state portion? Well, currently the way the TRS is calculated is if you're paying somebody above the minimum salary schedule, then the district has to make up that 8.25% difference between what you're paying them and what the minimum salary schedule is. And again, this is not final, it could change, but I believe that this will probably stay intact. We recently did the attendance projections data collection. I'm super proud at our response rate. We only had a few that did not respond. I know that it's not required for charter schools, but again, this really helps the Legislative Budget Board. It helps the TEA. It helps the ledge. This is kind of, we have to have some type of base information to start costing out these bills and to do fiscal analysis. And as you know, the education, budget is really driven by enrollment in ADA. So a huge shout out to everybody for submitting their attendance projections. We had a wonderful response rate and it's much appreciated. And you don't want to get a ding on your first score if you're a district. We saw districts were projecting that enrollment was going to go up. That's there's been some interesting conversations about that. The National Center for Educational Statistics says that enrollment's going to go down. The Texas State Demographer has said, I think enrollment could go up, but it's going to be at a slower growth. And so depending on who you talk to, there's different opinions on what's going to happen with attendance and or ADA and enrollment across the state. Disaster remediation, Winter Storm Uri, seems like forever ago. It was about 2 years ago. We're actually processing payments, and some of those payments have gone out. The application deadline for that was February 24th, 2023. If you remember, that storm happened in February of 2022. So at this point, currently, and this is a good thing, we don't have any additional disaster remediation programs. However, if there's some kind of horrible hurricane or weather event or some type of declared disaster, the ledge can always come back in and make supplemental appropriations. And hopefully that doesn't happen, or the disaster side of it anyway. But if it does, then that program would be re-looked at. State Comp Ed, we get this information in the PEAMS Fall Snapshot. The TEA Census Block tool was updated, and if you go to our webpage, you can see the reconciliation between the tiers. The tiers were rebalanced this year so that there is equal percentage of students in each tier. It's based on information that we get from the census. Currently, there are 18,638 block groups. So it's a lot of information, and I have multiple staff that work on this. Currently, sorry, I have a barking dog. I've got a German Shepherd. They like to bark. As you know, Tier 1 is the lowest funded tier. Tier 5 is the highest. And so if you have a student that is homeless, foster care, they automatically go into Tier 5. There's very, very specific spending requirements for State Comp Ed. Delinda is a wonderful resource if you have questions about those specific State Comp Ed requirements or what you can and cannot spend. She also worked at Austin ISD and previous to coming to the Texas Education Agency, and she is extremely knowledgeable, and I highly recommend reaching out to her if you have questions about State Comp Ed. And then one thing I wanted to kind of point out really quick, I know it's in the appendix, but if you're not signed up for TA correspondence, I highly recommend that you do that. Sometimes when we do specific runs or we have information that we think is really important, we'll push it out through some listservs. And so you can go to our website if you haven't already and sign up for the TEA correspondence. We don't, over in state funding, that's really Amy's group, but my group helps publish it as well. We don't try and overwhelm you with nonsense messages, but if we think that there is something that you need to see, then we'll go ahead and push it out. Obviously, we release, well, it may not be obvious, but every Thursday, the agency releases what we call TAAs, and that stands for To the Administrator Addressed. So that can be some really good correspondence for you there. Again, here's some additional instructions on how to sign up for that correspondence if you're currently not signed up. And then I will go back. Here are some of the contact information for some of our specific programs. Again, these are all on our website. We also have staff names that are attached to these programs on our website. And with that, I will stop and see if there's any questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Do we have any questions here from the audience? Sir?
On the summer finances, I know they get updated throughout the school year. The question is, I know CTE, the last couple of years, at least for my district, CTE was not updated till September, but I saw that it was updated this month. And also for state camp, does that mean it can keep updating, or is this year going to be a pretty minor changes, if anything?
I'm not entirely sure on that. I can definitely take that question and get an answer back to you. You said, did you say state comp ed or did you say CTE? I'm sorry.
He
CTE.
mentioned both, Sarah. He asked for both CTE and state comp.
Okay, so state comp ed, that is as of the snapshot date, and that does not change. Okay, so that should stay intact, and that should be fairly final. As far as CTE, those numbers can be adjusted when we get the attendance information in the summer collection, which happens, I think, the June type time frame.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and I appreciate the support to Region 1 school districts and charter schools. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.